I can talk to you about Hesed, but unless we live it and see it and do it, it's not going to happen. When I say let's build this community according to the pattern, and the pattern is that we're in God, He's in us, and together we will build. And we will do it together. And we'll spend time together. And we'll help one another together. And we'll bear one another's burdens together. I deliberately asked Alex and Mike to talk because they're good examples of it. Is that, like Christ, they're willing to be vulnerable. See, Jesus came as a baby. You don't get more vulnerable than that. We learn to relate to one another. The more we learn to trust one another, the more we learn to know how to interact, the more greater emotional maturity we get, then we can be vulnerable. I'm happy to tell you my weaknesses. I don't tell you them all because we don't have enough time. There are things that I've shared with you, things that once would have triggered shame in me, and that shame would have shut me down. And to love, we've got to be willing to be vulnerable. I've got to be willing to allow Mark to share my life and for him to see my weaknesses if I'm really going to love him. You see, what holds us back is that we're frightened that if we get too vulnerable, people will see our weakness and they'll expose it. Not in this community. Why? Because in this community, we have a tender response to weakness. Why? Because in this community, we accept that we are strong in some areas and weak in others. Why? Because in this community, we have the interactive presence of Emmanuel. This is who we are. This is what this oneness that God is creating.